Every morning, the golden sun spilled through the cracked window of the small bakery, dancing across shelves lined with fresh loaves. Gabriel, the baker with flour-dusted hands and a heart as warm as his ovens, rose before dawn each day, fueled by a singular purpose to create the finest bread his humble means could muster. The scent of rye and sourdough was his symphony, yet, beneath it all, there simmered a weight of worry. Business was slow, and the bills piled high. The modest income barely scraped by, leaving little for luxuries. But amidst the uncertainty, Gabriel's spirit remained unwavering. He believed in the power of connection, though it often felt as fragile as the yeast he kneaded into his dough. Each morning, as the sun rose and poured light into the tiny bakery, Gabriel began his daily routine of mixing, kneading, and shaping. He relished the feel of the dough under his fingers, allowing it to ground him in the present moment. But even as crispy crusts and soft centers emerged from the oven, the shadow of financial strain lingered, tightening its grip like an unseen hand. One chilly November morning, while arranging loaves on the display counter, Gabriel noticed a figure huddled in the doorway. It was Paul, the beggar who had become a familiar sight over the weeks. His clothes hung off him like a tattered flag of hardship, and his eyes carried the weight of countless burdens. Each day, Paul would sit quietly observing the world around him, often with a ghost of a smile for passers-by. Determined to do what he could, Gabriel decided long ago to share what little he had, offering Paul a warm loaf before the day got busy. That day was no different. "Here you go," Paul Gabriel said, tearing a warm roll in half and extending it toward the man, his heart swelling with a mix of gratitude and sadness. "You need this more than I do." With a soft nod, Paul accepted the bread, a glimmer of light passing through his weary features as he whispered a heartfelt thank you. For a brief moment, the bakery filled with pure warmth, as though the light from the oven had spread into their shared space, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Gabriel found solace in the small gesture, knowing that in their own worlds of struggle, they were connected in this act of kindness. As Paul took the bread, he paused, something flickering in his eyes that intrigued Gabriel. "You know, there's a saying," he began, his voice gravelly but gentle. "A baker's bread can be the soul of the community. One offering can sprout another." Gabriel chuckled softly. He had never thought of his bread as anything more than a way to survive. "I just try to make it through the day," he replied, shaking his head, brushing flour from his cheek, in a gesture both humble and dismissive. Yet Paul's gaze bore into him, not with pity but a kind of wisdom that insisted on being seen. "What if it's more than just survival?" Paul continued, a hint of warmth in his voice as if this conversation mattered to him. "What if the bread you give can lead to a feast someday? Let that energy go out into the world, keep it alive." Gabriel's heart stirred at the thought, but it was quickly buried under the weight of reality. "I can't afford to hope for more," he replied, feeling the familiar tug of anxiety creeping back in. The day would come like it always did, when hunger gnawed at his own stomach as much as he fed those who came knocking at his door. But that morning, Paul's words lingered like the aroma of freshly baked bread, wrapping around Gabriel like a reminder, an unspoken question about potential and possibility that, though small, was just enough to break through the crust of his resignation. Days turned into weeks as the seasons shifted, and the chill of winter crept into the air, but the cycle of kindness remained. Each morning, Gabriel would find a special place for Paul in his regular routine, offering warm rolls and crusty baguettes, always hopeful that each loaf offered might light a spark in their shared community. The rhythmic simplicity became an anchor in a tumultuous world. Little did both men know, however, that the foundations of change were being laid, not just by their interactions but by the silent fabric of empathy, connection, and kindness that was weaving them together, an unseen gift waiting to be unveiled. And so, the weeks progressed, filled with the aroma of baked goods and Paul's quiet gratitude. Until one fateful day, when for the first time since they had met, the beggar stood before Gabriel not just as a recipient but as a giver. Carrying hidden treasures, Paul once again stood at the bakery door, no longer shrouded in shadows but gleaming under the pale winter sun. The first hint of something monumental tugged at Gabriel's heart when he saw the small bundle tucked under Paul's heavy coat. "Today, my friend," Paul began, voice steady, "I have something for you." Gabriel's breath caught in his throat, curiosity brewing under the warmth of the bakery. As Paul unfolded the cloth, revealing a modest assortment of herbs, spices, and a small pouch of golden grains, the weight of impending change settled over the small establishment. The universe was spinning in ways they had yet to understand, and they stood right at the brink of transformation. In that singular moment, with flour in his hair and a heart full of love, Gabriel felt hope rise from the oven, as effortless and beautiful as the bread he always crafted, understanding that in the tapestry of life, even in hardship, there were threads of kindness, waiting to connect them to brighter tomorrows. The bundle of herbs and grains that Paul presented was a significant surprise for Gabriel. Eyes shining with gratitude, Paul explained that he had spent the last few weeks gathering the special ingredients from his earlier roadside exchanges, bartering bits and pieces with local farmers and bakers who had been willing to trade for a warm meal or a bit of bread. The herbs, still fragrant, were fresh and vibrant, promising culinary magic that Gabriel had often dreamed of exploring. "I thought you could use these to create something your customers would love," Paul said, his voice steady. "Food is not just about survival. It's about bringing people together. I've seen how your bread warms the hearts of strangers. Now let it shine." Inspired, Gabriel began to envision how he could bring Paul's vision to life. With a newfound purpose, he set to work crafting artisanal herb-infused loaves, blending rosemary, thyme, and a hint of garlic into his usual sourdough. Every need turned into an expression of gratitude, not just for Paul's gift but for the connection they shared, rooted in kindness that transcended their struggles. The next morning, he carefully arranged a dozen of the new loaves on the display counter, their crusts golden and aromatic. As customers started to trickle in, he could see their intrigue piqued. The vibrant green flecks swirling through the dough caught the eye. It wasn't long before whispers spread about the new creation, creating a small ruckus in the bakery. By noon, every loaf was sold, and Gabriel felt his heart swell with pride. Gone were his worries from the morning instead. Hope flared in his chest like the fire of his oven. Days turned into weeks, and Paul continued to make regular visits, and in each encounter the bond between him and Gabriel deepened. Paul shared stories about his life in the town, painting a picture of a world where kindness was both currency and lifeblood. Gabriel listened, understanding that the value of these interactions extended beyond monetary gain. They formed an unbreakable thread of community spirit. In the following weeks, the herb-infused bread became a beloved staple at the Warm Hearth Bakery, earning its own spot on the menu. Gabriel even began to create combinations, experimenting with seasonal vegetables and herbs, inviting his customers to participate in taste-testing events. Before long, the bakery thrived as it never had before, bustling with laughter and chatter as patrons discovered the joys of sharing meals infused with heart. One sunny afternoon, as children dashed in and out chasing bubbles and dreams, a local food critic entered, his nose twitching with curiosity. After indulging in a sample of the new bread, he requested to meet Gabriel. A palpable sense of excitement pulsed through the small shop as Gabriel nervously wiped his hands on his apron, wondering what the meeting might entail. The critic praised not just his culinary creations but also the passion and warmth that infused each bite. "This little bakery is a hidden gem," he said with a grin. "I'd love to feature you in next week's food section. With a piece on the best artisanal bread in the neighborhood, I see great potential for you and your bakery." Stunned, Gabriel could hardly believe his ears. Who could have guessed that a simple act of kindness, spurred through a shared bond over bread, could lead to such a turning point? After the article was published, customers began pouring in from neighboring towns, enchanted by Paul's flavors woven into Gabriel's creations. The boost in business crossed beyond expectations. Just like that, the ripple effects of one early morning offering, infused with compassion, began to transform their lives materially and emotionally. With profits stabilizing, Gabriel found the courage to envision growth: a larger kitchen, perhaps an additional chef. Each day brought new opportunities, and for the first time, his anxious thoughts about finances began to dissipate like flower dust in the morning light. Instead, he focused on possibilities blossoming in his path. Around this time, a seed of an idea grew in Gabriel's mind, inspired by Paul's community-centered spirit. He proposed hosting bake-off nights at the bakery, inviting families and friends to gather and celebrate creativity through baking. Participants could create their recipes using the herbs they'd come to love. Paul was initially skeptical, but Gabriel's enthusiasm won him over. With each bake-off, more locals participated, each sharing a piece of their heritage. By the end of the month, the bakery had transformed into a hub of joyous creativity, filled with the clatter of mixing bowls and the laughter of children learning to bake. It wasn't just a bakery anymore, it was a community center where every ingredient held a promise of connection. As the bake-offs continued, Gabriel decided to partner with a local charity, using part of the proceeds to provide baking kits for families in need. Each kit would inspire others to engage with the process of baking, whether for their dinner table or personal enjoyment. He shared this plan with the community, and their response was overwhelming. One morning, Paul arrived with news that a local company had taken notice of the Warm Hearth Bakery's growing visibility and impact. A representative from a corporate co-op approached him after experiencing the community events and was impressed by the spirit of it all. This company expressed their desire to collaborate, donating $10,000 worth of baking materials and equipment while offering to fund the next community bake-off an entire month in advance. Can you believe that Paul beamed with excitement, his eyes wide, reflecting the sunlight pouring through the window? Gabriel felt a wave of emotion wash over him: tenderness, joy, gratitude. "This is unbelievable, Paul," he whispered, trying to wrap his mind around the enormity of it all. "We're not just baking bread anymore, we're building something bigger. And that sprinkle of kindness has transformed into a full-blown feast for this community." The day the donation arrived, complete with shiny bowls, measuring cups, baking sheets, and a glittering new oven, was celebrated with festivities. Residents from all walks of life came pouring in to witness the expansion, each eager to partake in Gabriel's dream. What had begun as a single gesture of kindness, a warm loaf offered to Paul, created waves of change. The bakery blossomed beyond the realms of a mere establishment. It became a place where friendship and camaraderie flourished, rooted in a unique kind of resilience. Weeks passed. The warmth of community spread beyond the bakery walls, spilling into the hearts of individuals. Gabriel, now a beacon of hope, realized that he had not only lifted his spirits but that of others. Connections solidified. Stories layered themselves enrichingly back into the dough. One evening, while cleaning up after another bustling bake-off, Paul surprised Gabriel by approaching him with something he had carefully crafted: a portfolio filled with handwritten letters from participants expressing their gratitude. "Every letter reminds me how far your act of kindness has echoed," Paul said, his eyes gleaming. "These people feel valued, and it has changed their lives. It has changed ours." And to think it all began with one loaf of bread, Gabriel marveled, reflecting on each growing moment. He understood that seeing the world differently allowed silver linings to emerge. They had opened their hearts while their bakery hummed, emanating joyful energy, transforming lives, one loaf at a time. With the warmth of hope igniting in their spirits, both men knew that the journey wasn't over. They had discovered that kindness existed in layers, from flour and water to love and resilience. From here, there were endless opportunities to explore, uplifting others through the bond they had fragilely nurtured. One final letter nestled within the portfolio caught Gabriel's eye. It was from a young girl, about 10, who had participated in bake-off night. In her simple handwriting, she wrote, "Thank you for encouraging my family to bake together. It's made our home sweeter. I think of you every time my dad and I make bread." Gabriel felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, overwhelmed by the realization that something beautiful had grown from their shared acts of kindness. And as he glanced at Paul, those hazel eyes reflecting a bond unbreakable, he knew they were on the cusp of more than just financial transformation. They were cultivating roots of hope and possibility that would continue thriving, infinitely expanding in both spirit and love. The bakery hummed with life as crowds gathered every weekend, eager to indulge in the array of artisanal breads and seasonal baked goods. Gabriel realized that, through his simple acts of kindness like sharing that first loaf of bread with Paul, he had inadvertently created a living tapestry of community, hope, and resilience. As the sun set each evening, the warm glow of the bakery's lights spilled into the street, a beacon for all who passed by. Gabriel delighted in the laughter from families enjoying freshly baked goods, the sense of togetherness that filled the air mingling with the comforting scent of bread. He looked around and felt a profound sense of gratitude that churned within, stirring a purpose that resonated deep in his soul. Paul had blossomed alongside the bakery, crafting recipes that captured the essence of his past and shared them during the bake-offs. The idea of a community food stand had transformed from a mere wish into a solid plan. Inspired by Gabriel's kindness, Paul approached local farmers to outline his vision of providing affordable meals made from the bounty of their land. Additionally, he crafted weekly menus using fresh produce and grains to feed those who struggled to make ends meet. One sunny morning, as they prepared for their monthly bake-off, Gabriel noticed Paul meticulously arranging ingredients at a makeshift stall outside. "What's on your mind, my friend?" he asked, mixing the dough for a new herb-infused bread. Paul looked up, the sun catching the sparkle in his eyes. "I've been thinking. With the profits from our events and the donation support, it's time to take this food stand into full swing. I want to bring our community together like we've been doing here and reach those who can't come." "Are you sure?" Gabriel replied, noting the depth of determination in Paul's voice. "That's a big shift." "Of course," Paul said, a broad grin on his face. "We can offer meals for families, lunches for children after school, and even host workshops to teach people how to cook. All of this started because of your kindness. It's time we pass that on." Gabriel felt a swell of pride for his friend. "Let's do it. We'll start small, but I'll lend support however you need." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. They mapped out a plan, approached the local farmers market for space, and engaged volunteers to help prepare meals. Gabriel used his baking skills to create delicious bread and pastries for the stand, and Paul organized a team to serve wholesome meals sustainable for families. With each step, excitement bubbled within the community. Word spread quickly, and support flooded in from nearby neighbors eager to volunteer or donate. On the day of their debut, the aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the earthy scent of produce as the stand came alive. Families lined up, children laughing and skipping while others shared stories over steaming bowls of hearty soup. Gabriel fell deeper in love with the community he called home, feeling the threads connecting each person, melding through shared experiences. As the weeks passed, the food stand became an anchor for the community. Gabriel and Paul stood at the forefront, serving not just meals but nurturing a spirit of kindness. People returned from all corners, spending time together, celebrating hope instead of struggle. It became a place where joy and nourishment intertwined seamlessly. Though they focused on the community, financial stability followed closely. With every successful event, both Gabriel and Paul saved money to reinvest in the bakery and the food stand. After a few months, they made the leap and expanded their offerings, turning their humble operation into a vital resource for many families in need. Then came the pivotal moment when the mayor took notice of their remarkable work and invited them to present at the town hall meeting. When the day arrived, nerves fluttered in Gabriel's stomach like the yeast in his dough. Standing before a crowd of officials and community members, he felt the weight of what they had accomplished. With heartfelt words, Gabriel spoke not just of numbers and motivation, but of the individuals they had met along the way, the stories of triumph woven within the fabric of kindness. He detailed the ripple effect that had taken shape since that fateful morning Paul first accepted a loaf of bread. "I always believed baking was about making bread," he shared, "but I learned that it's about so much more. It's about providing a space for connection, sparking hope, and giving back, especially to those who need it most. We can create a larger impact through these small gestures, one roll of bread, one act of kindness at a time." His words resonated shockwaves through the room, prompting whispers of agreement. Paul, standing beside him, added his voice, a testament to the community they had nurtured from shared hardships. When they finished, the applause felt almost overwhelming, enveloping them in camaraderie. A few days later, news broke that the town would grant a small fund to improve their food stand, a gesture not only of appreciation but also recognition. They could purchase larger equipment to serve a wider variety of meals, expanding their reach. That night, under the twinkling stars, Gabriel and Paul shared a moment of sheer reflection. "I can't believe it," Paul said, incredulously. "From a single loaf to this, it's incredible what we can achieve together." "No, it's about what we can do when we believe in kindness," Gabriel replied, an unwavering spark of gratitude igniting in his chest. "Anyone can bring bread to the table, but it takes heart to bring people together." Months rolled forward and seasons changed as they transformed their small bakery into a bustling hub of connection, a community space filled with laughter, shared meals, and everlasting friendships. They hosted dinner nights, engaged with local art, and brought in musicians to foster creativity. On weekends, families gathered, children created art, and people shared stories, enveloped in the warmth of a growing community. Each loaf of bread served was more than nourishment, it sustained a cycle of giving that redefined who they were. One day, as Gabriel prepared yet another batch of dough, Paul approached him with a proposal. "Let's launch a community initiative where we teach those who want to learn. They can develop cooking skills while also providing meals for families in need. It's time we pay forward the kindness we received." The idea lit a fire. Together, they organized workshops, gathering individuals eager to learn and share their own skills. Local chefs functioned as mentors, teaching recipes passed down from generations while young faces lit up with possibility. What once felt like an isolated act of kindness blossomed into a vivid garden of support. And then, one evening at the bakery, as laughter echoed and children ran free among the tables, Gabriel glanced at Paul. "We've built something special, haven't we?" "More than special," Paul admitted, wiping his hands on his apron, eyes sparkling. "We've planted seeds of hope, and look at how they've grown." With every passing day, Gabriel observed how heartfelt acts had a way of returning tenfold. The bakery blossomed, financially stable at last, breaking even on an annual basis, and most importantly transformed into a beacon of enduring compassion. He felt a sense of pride in participating in a larger narrative about community growth, nurtured by kindness. As the season shifted towards winter, they planned their annual community holiday feast, a celebration that would join all the threads they had woven together. People signed up to contribute dishes, jokes floated through the air. Yet at the heart of everything was the unwavering belief that they were better together than apart. That evening, flanked by friends and family, Gabriel took a moment to stand before everyone, a mixture of laughter and chatter humbling his heart. All of this began with one loaf of bread and a simple act of kindness. He began, voice steady. "Through every setback we've grown. We built a community worth celebrating every single day." The room erupted in applause, with people embracing one another, each recognizing the strength of the network forged through open hearts. The spirit pulsed through the air, palpable and almost tangible. As they gathered, laughing and sharing stories over coffee and baked goods, Gabriel felt a swell of gratitude wash over him. He recognized the transformative journey they had all embarked on, the nourishment of souls through kindness, traded without a thought of return. With every loaf that came from his hands, Gabriel knew he would keep baking and creating, fueled by hope. They had discovered that kindness was not merely a single act, but a continuous chain that transformed lives in ways no one could foresee. In the dimming light of the bakery, under the warmth of shared laughter and unbreakable connection. Both men who once faced their trifles alone found fulfillment in the abundant love of family, woven together tight, intricately layered like the fresh bread he'd learned to master. And in that moment, one thing remained certain: the heart of baking was not just about the ingredients or the process, it was about the memories they created, the lives they touched, the kindness they shared, and the community that thrived together, one slice at a time.